Everyone, Christian here, and here's a little review on a variety of coconut, and it's a green Malayan dwarf. It's most likely the green Malayan dwarf, but I wanted to go on a little bit about coconut varieties, specifically dwarf varieties. Now, we can go and say, oh, I went to the store and I bought a dwarf coconut or a Fiji dwarf or a Jamaican tall, and without really letting the plant grow up to maturity, that 3-gallon plant you may have or germinated seed, it's really hard to actually tell because seed varieties will differ even within a subspecies. And so just because a seed is a certain size or a certain shape doesn't make it that type of coconut, because they open pollinate. So if say you're trying to get a Jamaican tall, and the people who harvest the Jamaican talls, they harvest them off tall Jamaican talls, mature ones, but there's also some dwarfs in the area, then there's a good chance that there's some pollination, cross-pollination going on there. So here I am, and I saw this coconut here and realized that it was actually I'm going to call it just a green dwarf, because it could be a green Maypan dwarf, a hybrid, a green Malayan dwarf. Could be any Pacific Oceanic type of dwarfs, except for a couple that have just red or yellow petioles. But really, what I'm trying to say is the proof is in the actual fruiting of the coconut. Now, this coconut only has about 4 feet of clear trunk, and I can reach right here, just in case it can't be told, but one of the highest, biggest coconuts, I can reach and pick it very easily. In fact, it's perfect height. So now when you buy a coconut, you can try and get reliability of the source is very important, because even in Jamaica, where they certify Jamaican talls, they're really just picking coconuts off and writing a certification letter, and that's really just kind of a little bit of abusive government bureaucracy, I guess, for lack of a better term. So if you're looking for a dwarf coconut, really the best thing to do is to find 2 other dwarfs that are nearby and pick a coconut off those 2, kind of ones that are standalone, so to speak, or just even one that's alone, because even if you get cross-pollination of 2 dwarf types, you could still get a tall type. So really it comes down to how they look when they kind of grow out. So how a coconut can look like when they're smaller can be a little bit more determinate. Tall varieties will tend to hold an entire leaf for a longer period of time, and dwarf varieties will tend to go fully pinnate, meaning having mature leaves such as this, separated leaflets, as opposed to bifid entire leaves that are really just 2 little prongs coming out of a single frond, where the midribs have not detached from the petiole. So now also I want to talk about the fruiting of coconuts. Now, coconuts can grow in many areas where they actually don't produce viable fruit. Now, they will produce fruit. They just tend to abort the fruit, or the fruit is not viable. You can still eat it, but it doesn't. The embryo is not fully developed, and this tends to happen in a couple areas. One is in subtropical areas where coconuts will not freeze out, but there's not enough heat during the wintertime to produce the coconut. And the other is in tropical. Really, it's more of the same type of climate, but more of a cool weather all year round. This is going to happen in tropical climates in the highland area. So it's going to be above about 5,000 to 6,000 feet, or actually a little bit lower than that, probably 4,000 feet in the tropics. You're going to find that coconuts will survive, because the high will be, say, 78 and the low might be 58 every day, but that will not be enough heat for the coconut to produce good fruit. Now, this is a much tighter crown than it has a lot of appearances of a dwarf. It has a tighter crown than a lot of coconuts in, say, Jamaican tall. And this one over here, you can see, also has sort of that same shape. It's the same size, about 4 feet of trunk, has fruit growing on it. In fact, it's in some more sun, so if we go take a look. And now you can see that a lot of the flowering spikes have no fruit on them, and that's just most likely because they weren't properly pollinated. That happens a lot. And then you get some that have that are full of fruit, and that can be for multiple reasons. It could have been the cold. It could have just been the flowers were necrotic. It was too windy and they all blew away. I mean, it's unlikely, but it's possible. But these are both 2 pretty healthy plants. You can see they kind of, this is how they like to be planted too. They don't mind a lot of water, but they like to have the soil sandy and kind of built up, and that's how they really grow, when they just kind of wash up on an island. So I just wanted to kind of run that by you guys to show you guys the tightness of a more dwarf variety. I'm just going to call it a green dwarf. I'm not going to, I could call it a Malayan dwarf, but I couldn't guarantee that. I'm not going to give you guys any misinformation, so that, you know, intentionally. So I hope that was somewhat useful to those of you who enjoy dwarf coconuts. So if you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, and there'll be many more palm reviews, including coconuts, in the future. If the video is helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions about dwarf coconuts, you can leave them down below, or coconuts in general, and I will get back to you with whatever I can. And thank you for watching.